Add method to class returned by function. Disclaimer: this question is related to homework. I am not expecting a solution, but I'm hoping for a better understanding of what is being asked and the possible utility of this homework exercise. This question was asked after a lesson on using Python's mysqlp module and how to better represent the result set, and possibly its rows, instead of a tuple of tuples, as is default with mysqlp. The question is: modify the class factory.py source code so that the dataRow class returned by the build_row function has another method. Self is, as usual, the instance whose method is being called. Curs is a database cursor on an existing database connection, and condition, if present, is a string of conditions which must be true of all received rows. The retrieve method should be a generator, yielding successive rows of the result set until it is completely exhausted. Each row should be a new object of type dataRow. What is the purpose of creating a class within a function definition? Is this commonly done by professional developers? If so, what is the benefit? Why is the database cursor an explicit argument of the retrieve method? Shouldn't the database cursor be referenced outside the scope of this script when the database connection is made? Is it correct to say that, currently, the build_row function will accept two arguments, table and calls, and return a string that may look like, as an example, exampletable_record field. When the retrieve method is successfully added, what should I expect build_row to now return? As I alluded to earlier, if I had an idea of why I'm being asked to add the retrieve method, then I might have a better idea of how to attack this problem.
This is referred to as the factory design pattern, although in this case it's just to make instantiation of the class be forced to the method that contains the class. This forces you to set the table and column name attributes at time of instantiation, which could cause errors if not properly instantiated when you try and call retrieve. In order to query the database it needs a cursor object. Yes, but it returns in the dataRow class, not a string. This has a string representation. A dataRow that has data. Here is a link with a discussion of factory design pattern. Why do we need abstract factory design pattern? An example retrieve function. Then you would do something like
Two. Why is the database cursor an explicit argument of the retrieve method? Shouldn't the database cursor be referenced outside the scope of this script when the database connection is made? Encapsulation. Relying on global magic variables creates dependencies that should be avoided when possible. Consider that your application might have multiple cursors active at the same time, or might even be talking to two databases through separate connections. Passing in the argument also makes your code easier to test. You can pass it a mock class or some such, without having to modify global variables.
What you have is an example where this can be used professionally. The function build_row is a class factory that returns a class suitable of handling data for a particular table and columns. Although I would have personally not used the factory pattern in this specific case, it does work. So to explain what this piece of code is doing, it basically creates a class that uses the table and calls from the function call. If you notice in the code self.calls and self.table are being but they are not really part of the .row, they are attached to it afterwards, which shows off the flexibility of creating classes this way. What the build_row function actually returns is a class. This class should be used to get data from the database. This is the part that you have to build for your assignment. You will need to use table, the table name, in your select statement. You will also need the calls, essentially your function, which I will not write for you, should do. And return the results. This should be enough to get you going.
Puzzle is a